Do you agree that the corporate tax cuts are a big deal?
They're a big deal, but I think they're a bad deal at the same time.
Okay.
This is the last time, the worst possible time to be cutting taxes and stimulating an economy that's already at full employment and growing at capacity. So I think volatility will remain the theme. The markets will get a sugar high in the short run, and then they'll realize that we're blowing up the debt, we're blowing up the trade deficit, and they'll give back what they got.
How soon do you think that reckoning is going to come, Barry?
Well, I think we saw it within the day that the markets are of two minds. Investors can't figure out whether the positive implications for profits or the negative implications for the economy, that we won't be able to cut taxes in a recession because we've already done that, we've already been there, that the Fed is going to be hiking interest rates faster, and importantly, a bigger trade deficit is going to feed President Trump's protectionist instincts. All those things are going to be bad for the economy going forward.
But, Barry, is it stimulative? Getting back to those corporate tax cuts, though, are they going to be at least stimulative to the economy? Are these companies going to take this money now that they're getting from lower taxes and putting it back into the economy?
I do agree that some of it will be transferred into investment, but there isn't a lot of spare capacity to produce investment goods. The additional spending will come from foreign sources, which means imports. That's not going to be great for the U.S. economy in the short run, and it is going to antagonize the president, who sees the trade deficit as the indicator of how well or poorly we're doing.
Barry, that takes me to the core of the issue, and Betty was talking a little bit about it. I mean, there's never a perfect time anyway to increase the tax burden, unless, of course, tax reform structurally unlocks something that isn't there in the economy. Is that what's happening here? And, should we hope that eventually growth will outpace the debt?
Well, that's the idea, but the problem is what we got was a tax overhaul and not a tax reform. We didn't simplify the tax code. We've got those tremendously complicated pass-through provisions, among other things, that are not going to lead to a more efficient allocation of resources. So if there's a little bit of additional investment spending in the United States, I don't think that's going to unlock anything. The banks and analysts tell us that we might get a fifth of a percentage point of additional growth per year for a couple of years. I don't think that will make a first-order difference. What will make a first-order difference is the impact on inequality. We know how that shows up in the polls.
And Barry, I mean, a lot of these discussions surrounding the need to change the tax regime, began when you look at the amount of cash that U.S. corporates were holding outside. I mean, does this create that incentive, though, to repatriate a lot of that outside and then decide what to do with it anyway when you bring it back in?
Yeah. So I think one thing this tax overhaul will do is cause some repatriation of funds held abroad, which firms will turn around and use for share buybacks. Good for the stock market. Not obviously good for the economy. The cost of capital is already low. Interest rates are low. Firms are already swimming in cash. It's hard for me to see how there's going to be a great big impact on investment.
Barry, I want to talk a little bit about the currency markets. You've written quite extensively about the dollar and about just the interconnectedness of the currency markets. I want you to weigh in, Barry, on the Bitcoin debate going on right now and whether you think, all these calls about the demise of the dollar, do you think any of that is related to the rise of Bitcoin?
No, I don't think it's about Bitcoin. I think it's more about rivals to the dollar like the euro and the renminbi. Bitcoin can go up, to put it mildly, but it can also come down. And I think your earlier segment was on the money. Now there are going to be good ways to short Bitcoin. So in terms of Bitcoin volatility, we ain't seen nothing yet.